Hi, welcome to Property with Jacob. Today we're going to be discussing managing your property. So we'll start off with using an agent. What does this entail? Normally this ends up with a fee that they will either charge you straight away or they can take as like a monthly percentage of the rent. It can range between 8 and 12%, sometimes higher if it's HMO, sometimes lower if it's easier to manage perhaps. The fees can also mean that if you get it managed with the letting agent, then it reduces the amount that they will let the property for. So that's always something to consider. They're in charge of like the maintenance that needs to be carried out. So they'll use their contractors. They will speak to the tenants directly. So it's kind of like very good for like a hands-off investment. This can also be accompanied by some sort of rent protection scheme as well. That's not via insurance, it's via the letting agent. So they will, even regardless of whether the tenant pays the rent or not, they will pay the rent to you either way. This again is handy for like a hands-off sort of investment. The rent protection can also be covered in insurance as well. So if you want to go down the personal route, you can get insurance for it. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail. As I said, an agency is really good for hands-off. It has a hands-off form of investment. From moving on to doing it yourself, so carrying it out yourself, this is probably what it's going to be more focused on. This is how I operate most of the time. Is maintenance is different. So you have to have a good relationship with your tradespeople. You will be in contact with them for gas certificates. Needs to be provided before the start of the tenancy. One has to be issued to the tenant. You have to keep one for yourself. Has to be completed once a year. It's regular sort of maintenance like that, and crack on with the issue at hand, and know they're not going to rip you off. Again, for the first few houses, it's probably best that you go yourself, weigh up how much you think it's going to cost, and then ask the tradespeople. But once you've developed that relationship with the tradesman, you will be able to just trust them to go out on their own and do it, and know they're giving you a fair price. Next section I want to discuss is interacting with the tenants. Have a relatively good relationship with your tenants, so you're not just seen as the guy that's always asking them for money. For example, say they were late, or so it's not negative encounters that you're having with the tenants. They've got some sort of positive feedback with yourself. If you're busy, I understand it's not something you need to do, but it's always nice. When I say interacting with tenants, it just mean like if you were going to go over to the house for some sort of maintenance issue, you'd have a chat about them, you'd have a chat about the house, you'd see if it's all right, keep it professional, and you'd really, it's nice to kind of show that you're not just a big scary landlord, you're actually a person. I think that's always good. Following on from the aspects about interacting with your tenants is regular checkups. So when I say regular checkups, you maybe book it in for once every 3 months or once every 6 months, where you just go to look at the house and see if anything needs doing, seeing what sort of condition it's in, seeing if it's in line with your standard wear and tear, for example like marks on the walls, or maybe damage to the woodwork from like people walking past it. Obviously if it's general wear and tear, it's not normally deductible from the deposit, but it's something you just need to keep an eye on. And see if anything needs doing. At the end of the day, your property is your business and your service, and you're providing that service to a customer. So you need to make sure your product's quality. This will only help yourself with your reputation. Also helps out the tenant and making them feel like you care, which you should if you're a landlord, really. So, say 12 months has passed and the time comes to renew the tenancy, then you can start dropping this in conversations. Normally with my ASTs, as I showed short hold tenancy agreements, I keep it 12 months. I like 12 months tenancies. I would keep them longer if that was kind of the status quo. I find that I don't really plan on selling my houses unless a particular or getting rid of my tenants or getting rid of the houses unless the tenant or a group of tenants is particularly irritating and damaging to my profits overall. Then I would consider removing it. So a month before tenancy is up for renewal, you might want to send them a text message or write them a letter, however you want to do it, via email perhaps, and ask them are they going to be renewing for the next 12 months. Instead of 1 month in advance, you might want to do this 2 months in advance, just to see where they stand. Again, if this is a family let, you're probably going to want to renew, especially if you've been a good landlord. Building that relationship, interacting with tenants is important for that. Costs you less for having to re-let the house out, less hassle for them because you don't need to move out. Easy for everyone, we all win. If so, some landlords like to apply fees to this stage. I'm not one of those that does that. I have a contract, they sign it, it's done. Doesn't take much time. I'm happy with that. Doesn't really affect my ROI. If I was to pay someone to manage it, I think letting agents do charge for this. I think they charge them like £50 to renew the tenancy. I wouldn't be being particularly fair, but again, some people are running businesses and they might see costs that are unforeseen to myself. Now, if they don't want to renew, then it's time to say goodbye and go your separate ways. In that case, it's end of the tenancy, they want to renew, or they don't want to renew, they want to move out. You do what we discussed in the previous video about getting the house on the market, and we reopen the advertisements. Again, if you're going to do it yourself, Spare Room, Gumtree, Facebook Marketplace. There's another one called House Shop as well, it's quite useful. And if you're not going to do it yourself, you can always talk to your agency about re-letting it, but again, that comes with additional costs. Running back to something we just at the start, if your agency manages it, you don't have to do any of those things. The managing agency will just find you a tenant automatically. The only downside to this is they might inform you and they might automatically charge you depending on how much contact you want with the agency. I'm guessing if you wanted a hands-off investment, then you wouldn't exactly want your hand being held the entire time through it. So it depends on what you would want personally, which would determine which agency you would go with. Again, vetting each agency would depend on it would be very similar to how you would do it if you were wanting to re-let the house. You'd look at reviews, you'd look at what family might have said or friends might have said about that agency, what was their contact with them, and how reliable are they? Can you trust your investment to this agency? Are they going to provide quality? Are they going to give you value for money? Are they worth the fee that you're paying? And if so, if they are, great, take them on. That's really good. And in the next video, we're going to be looking at a case study. One of my own personal properties. It's my first one, actually. So yeah, stay tuned. Thank you. If you like this video, then please like it. We've got a lot more videos in the pipeline, so if you like what you see, subscribe to us for weekly videos. I'll see you in the next one.